I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV, episode number 170. We are back with a big old stack of great comics that we want to talk about this week. And we'll kick things off with SpiderMan 2099, number 1. This is written by Peter David with artwork by Will Sliney. SpiderMan 2099 is back. He's been back for a little while if you've been reading Dan Slott's amazing Spider-Man. Miguel, what's his name? O'Hara?
O'Hara, yes.
Miguel O'Hara, Chief Miguel O'Hara, is stuck in the present day. He was caught in some sort of time hubbub that brought him from 2099 back to 2014, and he's working at, is it Alchemex?
Yeah.
Yes.
Alchemex, which is formed out of what was left of Oscorp and that other company.
The company that Peter used to work for, right?
Horizon Labs? No,
Yes.
they tried to buy the stuff and then it got all weird. But it was Liz Allen's company?
Yes,
Her
Liz
dad's
Allen
company or
Osborne. So Harry Osborne's former wife, Liz, runs the joint. And Miguel works there under a pseudonym, working with his grandfather, who is a tool, and just trying to figure out, what he needs to do here to get back home, to keep the time stream from going bazooey. And for those of you that don't know, Spider-Man 2099 was a series that was started by Peter David back in the early 1990s and ran for about 25 issues, I believe.
I'm not sure.
Josh
I think it's a little longer than
My
that.
fact checker doesn't know at this point, but it was about 25, maybe 30, 35. Didn't run for a long time, but it had a dedicated following. Those are collected in trade paperback if you really want to go back and check them out. But the great thing that David does here is that if you've never read the character before, you get everything you need to know in the first few pages. And that's what a lot of the seasoned writers are great at doing this. People like Mark Waid and Peter David. I didn't say old, I said seasoned. And this is the way it used to be in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. They would give you a little bit of a recap in the beginning so you knew who you were dealing with, so that you could pick up any issue and it would be your first issue, and it didn't necessarily have to have a number 1 on it. So even though this does have a number 1, because we're dealing with a character that's out of time and new to some people, Peter David does a great job of introducing the character to a new audience. I really enjoyed it, obviously, because I'm talking about it. But Miguel O'Hara is not Peter Parker. Right. He's got a different way of interacting with folks, a different way of dealing with villains. In fact, there's one point when Spider-Man 2099, because that's what we'll call him, I guess, or the Spider-Man of this book, is interacting with Liz Allen, and he says he's Spider-Man, and Liz says, "You're not Spider-Man, you're not making any jokes." And then O'Hara comes up with some lame joke. So this was just great. The artwork by Sliney, and I've never heard of this guy before, which doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. Well, yeah, it does. I know a lot of artists, but I thought the artwork fit the story great. Action-packed, good character development. Looking forward to seeing where it goes next. I hope that this sticks around for a while. A lot of the new Marvel number 1s with semi-new characters or completely new characters have been selling really well. So if you're interested in Spider-Man, Peter David, good new characters, this book is for you. Also
out this week from Marvel, we've got Original Sin, Loki and Thor, the 10th Realm, number 1, 5.1. This is another one of the tie-in miniseries to their big summer event, Original Sin, where the Watcher's eyeball has unleashed secrets upon the realm. And one of the secrets, we see Thor actually react to it in the Original Sin issue, is that he has a sister.
Sister.
Yes. There is another Odin son, Odin daughter. I don't know what Norse is for daughter, but this is actually very cool because we get we get Thor starting to investigate, how does he run this down? Because this Watcher's eyeball thing, it's not just knowledge, it's basically truth. Like Thor, feels in his bones that this is true. So people are like, no, there's no sister, there's no, and he no, it's real. Odin's son, and he gets it. And it's very cool. He teams up with Loki because it would be Loki's sister as well, sort of adopted half thing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But, and they go off and investigate the mysteries. And they talk to the All-Mother, and we find out there's some things we didn't know beyond the existence of the sister. And it sets up some very cool stuff. I really like, they're kind of going out of their way to include Angela in the kind of core Marvel universe.
So is it Angela or Angela?
I don't know.
I'm married to an Angela, so I say actually Angie.
I don't know.
I would not call her Angie. But you keep saying Angela, and I feel like I'm pronouncing it wrong, because I think it's Angela.
Okay, it could be Angela. I don't know. I'll ask Neil Gaiman the next time I see him.
Tweet him.
Yes, I will tweet to the Gaiman.
Pretend you're a panda.
But one of my favorite parts about these tie-in books, just like the Iron Man and Hulkman, is they're being written by the creative teams. So this picks up literally from the end of the last issue of Thor, written by Jason Aaron. So we've got Aaron and Ewing working together on the story, and Ewing is the writer on the Loki Agent of Asgard story, and they just mesh really well with the existing stuff in the books while kicking in some new stuff from the original Sin tie-in, and I just loved it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. And you have to kind of step back for a minute. And I was explaining this to a customer in the store today who was not familiar with the character of Angela. And trying to give this character's story and history, that this was a character created by Neil Gaiman for Spawn. So
Medieval
for Todd
Spawn,
McFarlane, yes, in the 90s at Image Comics. Gaiman and McFarlane went back and forth over the rights to this character. Gaiman won. Gaiman then licensed the character, I believe, to Marvel. Or said, hey, use it, or threw it away, or whatever. Yeah. Or he gets a year's supply of Marvel
I think it had something to do with the Marvel Man. To bring back Miracle Man and Marvel Man, I think the rights, because Gaiman's going to be finishing that for them. I think that was all tied into one
So there was
package.
some backroom deal that got Angela to go from the Image universe, the Spawn universe, into the Marvel universe, and now she's Thor's sister. So this is just it's an amazing story. And one thing that you didn't mention, you mentioned it in the title, but this introduces the 10th realm. That Asgard was one of 9 realms, and every time we've seen in the 2 Thor movies and in comics, it's always been the 9 realms. Well, now we have 10 realms.
Yeah.
So really curious to see where it goes.
Also mythology. They're not just changing Marvel continuity.
Oh, yeah. Well, to me, no. There's no mythology. There's just Marvel mythology.
There's no mythology. There's only Walt Simonson.
All right. I'll stick in the Spider-Man wheelhouse with the Amazing Spider-Man Learning to Crawl 01.3. This is the retconning a bit Spider-Man's origin, bringing it into the 21st century somehow, 20th century, because there's cell phones and digital video cameras and things like that. This is just a fun read. This is, I mentioned it with the first issue and possibly with the second issue. It's very much an Untold Tales of Spider-Man, but modernized. Written by Dan Slott, who's the regular writer of Amazing Spider-Man. Artwork by Ramon Perez, who is just killing it on this. And it's a different style. I mean, it's completely different than what Humberto Ramos would do or any of the other Amazing Spider-Man artists. But just the cover image on this Aunt May, freaking out with flaming Spider-Man. I mean, I don't know what's going on here. But it's crazy. And Aunt May in the book is just so old and decrepit and ancient. It's the villain, the introduction of the new villain is very cool. Peter Parker entering the science fair using his spider stuff, but realizing that if he introduced his web fluid, someone might put 2 and 2 together and realize that he's Spider-Man. It's got his first encounter with the Vulture. Aunt May thinks that Peter's a drug dealer because at the end of the last issue, she walks into Peter's room, which is unlocked, and we see her gasping as she opens the door. And, of course, the assumption is she sees his costume or something. And, of course, they start this issue, and she has to have a sit-down with Peter because she found an envelope full of money. And she looks at all the chemistry equipment in his room, and she thinks he's dealing meth or something. So it's fun, it's funny, it's emotional, too, because by the end of the issue, you get to that point where, in the original Spider-Man story, where Aunt May just detests Spider-Man. She and J. Jonah Jameson were the biggest cheerleaders against Spider-Man. And you just see how crushed Peter is, that he feels like he let Uncle Ben down by allowing the robber to get by. And
I'm not sure that's a feel like. I think he did let Uncle Ben down.
That's an actual thing, yeah. He let a lot of people down there. And now he feels like he let Aunt May down, and you can just feel the weight that's on young Peter Parker. Really enjoying it. This is a must-read if you're a Spider-Man fan, as far as I'm concerned.
Kind of a surprise this week from Dynamite's Chaos imprint, Chastity #1, written by Marc and Draco, with art by Dave Acosta. I don't know anything about the Chaos universe. I've never read a Chastity comic before, but I really enjoyed this one. We start off with a young girl whose mother was an Olympic figure skater, and she gets into gymnastics, and it doesn't work out for her. She takes an injury and has to fall out, and that creates this really uncomfortable... Her mother's one of those kind of show moms where she wants her to succeed and do great. And so it creates kind of an interesting and unpleasant home life for her, and we follow her through other things. I guess I don't want to give away the whole book, but it follows a very logical path and a very realistic character, and then it ends in over-the-top comic book horror. Awesome. I intend to dismiss things in the Chaosverse because of Lady Death and Evil Ernie, and they're great for some people that I've never enjoyed them. But this was really grounded and human and well written, and I'm super excited to see what happens. So if you like Twilight, vampires, anything that's about young girls,
we need young girls.
Again with the we need young girls. Anything that's about people making their way in the world when they're young and how hard life can be growing up. This is a good checkout for you.
And I am astounded by this. I did not expect to come in today and have Josh say, I want to talk about Chastity #1, because I didn't even pick it up. I mean, because it's a Chaos book, because of all the history that goes with it, and the fact that I also had no interest in those characters, I did not pick it up. But shame on me, and let this be a lesson to you, boys and girls, that this is now the Chaos universe is now being published by Dynamite, and Dynamite is spending some money to get talented writers and artists on board over at their place. So, and Draco has a great track record as a writer, especially writing female characters. So this is a surprise, and you should maybe check it out. Grayson #1 from DC Comics. This is the continuing story of Dick Grayson. I just have to chuckle at the way that DC is promoting this book in their house ads that end with "You don't know Dick," as well as the solicitation copy for this book. And sidebar, did you notice that the other ads in the DC books this week for the other new books, Harley and Suicide Squad,
how they're all
Teen
formatted
Titans.
the same and they're all kind of
the
same formula?
Did you see the Teen Titans one?
Yeah, their tools or whatever.
Yeah. They call us
weapons. No, they call us
weapons,
and we think they're tools. Or
yes,
something like that.
and
the Damien one was great, where it was like the skeletal Damien.
I do. The ads
sort
are
of
very,
back or whatever.
The ads are very eye catching, and kudos to DC for that. But I thought it was kind of stupid. Red Robin's holding a copy of Justice League #1, and it's on fire,
burning it. Yeah.
Just anyway. So Grayson #1. If you were with us during Forever Evil and towards the end of Forever Evil, Dick Grayson's identity, well, I should say the beginning, Dick Grayson's identity was revealed to the world. By the end of Forever Evil, he had been he'd been a prisoner of the crime syndicate for most of the storyline, and by the end, he is dead. Nightwing is dead, but he's not really dead. We knew that he didn't die. Only a handful of people know he's alive. Batman pulls him aside at one point. They have a knockdown, drag-out fight in the Batcave because Bruce wants to make sure that Dick is tough enough and ready enough to go undercover as a mole within this new spy organization called Spiral that is collecting secret identities of superheroes and kind of torturing people that are acquaintances of those heroes to get at their secret identities. So, everyone in the Bat family, with the exception of Batman and Alfred, does Alfred know he's alive? No, Alfred does not know he's alive.
Doesn't he?
They made us. I don't know.
I always operate under the assumption that Alfred knows everything. I'm pretty sure there's a panel. He's standing next to Bruce when they look at the
I think Alfred's the Watcher.
Alfred might be the Watcher. Alfred, that's his power, seeing, knowing.
So, Barbara Gordon thinks that Nightwing's dead.
Yeah.
Tim thinks that Nightwing's dead. Everybody, for the most part, thinks that Nightwing is dead. So, Dick Grayson is now undercover as an operative of Spiral. And we get a very James Bond, Mission Impossible type story here. Written by Tim Seeley, who created Hack Slash and is one of the brain trust behind Batman Eternal. Really enjoyed the first issue. It's paced well. It's got that spy feel to it. The other cool thing, which I didn't expect, I don't know if I want to reveal it or not.
Which one?
Who his partner is.
Yeah, I'm still not even sure how that's possible.
Yeah, I don't know either, but...
he does fight Midnighter, which I thought was wicked cool, because he's basically a Batman analog.
Yeah, and they don't know who he is.
Right.
Which is interesting. But Dick's partner in here is Helena Bertinelli, Huntress, which is interesting. And it looks like the person pulling the shots or calling the shots is another DC character, which I won't reveal. Just solid start. You get to the end of the book, things become made clear. But the important things to know going into this, if you have not been reading Nightwing or Forever Evil, is that the world thinks that Nightwing/Dick Grayson is dead. Batman has sent Dick undercover to figure out what this Spiral organization is doing, and then we're off and running with the first issue. Should point out that Grayson is one of the books this week that has a Batman 75th anniversary variant cover. The variant is by Jock, and it's very cool.
So Is that Jacques' MMO or MO now? Is he has people like dropping across covers? Because he had some Batman covers that were very close to
and
that.
It was Dick as Batman,
right?
So it's kind of I don't know. It's not an homage, but it plays off of what he did when Scott Snyder was writing the Black Mirror.
Next up this week we have Spread #1 from Image. This is not a pornographic magazine, in case you were wondering. It's written by Justin Jordan, art by Kyle Stram, and this is. This is Wolverine at the top of the world in a Mad Max universe. I don't know what the heck's going on in
Saving
here.
Baby Hope.
Yes, it's a post-apocalyptic world. Everything seems... It could be the location they're in. We're not completely sure. But it's very icy, very cold, and he's being hunted by this Cthulhu-esque thing of teeth and tentacles, and it's massive, and it can send out kind of feelers through and hunt him down. But then you've also got the last stands of humanity. And as humans do, when things get hard, we slaughter each other mercilessly and look after self-interest. So they're horrible roving bands of reavers and stuff. And it's about this guy, we don't really know who he is. He's obviously very capable in a fight. And he finds this baby named Hope, or which may not be Hope. She's the Hope for some reason. And it looks... We learn a little bit about why. We don't get the full background, but I thought it was really good. We see a lot of post-apocalyptic stuff, and I think this benefited from Saga, because it's Saga. The story is told from the point of view of the baby, so I got a lot of echoes of the way Saga's narrated by Hazel from it. But yeah, so if you like the Cable and Hope stuff after Messiah Complex, where he had to protect the baby and fight all these horrible things, that's kind of a similar vein. What do you think?
I enjoyed it as well. Just to clarify, it's not actually Wolverine. It's a guy that looks like Wolverine.
Wolverine's hair is tall on the sides and short in the middle. This guy's hair is tall in the middle.
So if you like Man with No Name, post-apocalyptic Cthulhu thrillers,
Lone Wolf and Cub.
Yeah, Lone Wolf and Cub. Really solid first issue from Image Comics and Justin Jordan. Lastly for me is Amazing X-Men #9 by Chris Yost and Craig Kyle and penciled by Carlo Barberi. This is the second part of the Wendigo storyline involving my favorite X-Men. So this book from the beginning, this book seems tailor-made for a 40-year-old comic fan, which I am, because it's got a lot of the characters that I grew up reading. The interactions are spot on. The characterizations are spot on. Storm's got a mohawk again. I mean, I know that these two didn't do that, but it's just Storm's got a mohawk again. The Wendigo are there. Alpha Flight's involved. And the ending is a little bit of a jolt. So I guess the only reason I'm talking about this is to encourage you to go back and pick up part 1 if you haven't, which is issue number 8. And then pick up issue number 9 as well. It's good X-Men stuff. It's a little lighter than some of the other X-Fare right now, but also has a serious tone.
There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you want a lighter book.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I think we both like Wolverine the X-Men so much, is because, yes, it had serious stuff going on, but it was much lighter in tone. This was during AVX,
right.
But I'm getting distracted. We're talking currently about Amazing X-Men. One of my favorite X books right now, and just good stuff. I don't know what's going to happen as we move towards the death of Wolverine in September, because some stuff happens in here. Did you read this?
No.
You didn't read this. Stuff happens in here towards the end with
I'm
Wolverine.
not a 40-year-old.
Wolverine is in so many books, and the one thing that caught my eye as I started to read this, Wolverine's not on the cover. Right. I think that Marvel is going out of their way now to not put Wolverine on the cover of books, because they are going to be taking him off the chessboard, presumably, in September. So there was a time when Wolverine would be on the cover of every book. Yeah. Not so much. Wolverine is a main player in this book, and he is not on the cover. Okay.
Well, there's 2 different teams of X-Men, and this is the team going to find him later, right?
Yeah. There was no team. It's just Wolverine.
Right. Wolverine went to investigate the Alpha Flight stuff in the last issue.
Wolverine.
Right. And this is the team going to find him.
But to have an X-Men book with Wolverine in the story and to not put him on the cover just seems odd to me. I'm not complaining. No. But
I like that Storm gets to take a little bit more of a leadership role in this arc. Because, I mean, she's classically, back in the day, it was Storm and Cyclops were the two team leaders in the X-Men. And by back in the day, I mean the 90s, because that was back in the day for me.
No, that was the 80s.
And 90s. Sorry.
Well, I guess it was the 90s, too.
I mean, they're the gold and blue teams.
Yeah,
and,
but even before that, you had that issue
right.
201 where Storm and Cyclops are facing off
for leadership.
Yes. With the Morlocks, I think. Might have been for leadership of the team. No, I don't know. Callisto was there.
Callisto was there.
I've read so many X-Men books.
But with Wolverine and Scott going at it all the time, she kind of falls to the wayside. It's good to see her.
Well, she does get a chance to shine, and then she will have a new solo series written by Greg Pak, which we will be seeing in the next couple of weeks.
See, I don't want another comic book, but I love Greg Pak. So, all right. I'll try it. Last up, we actually have all new X-Men number 29, written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Stuart Immonen. And this issue answers the burning question, why would Angel need a motorcycle? I've been kind of going back and forth on the last arc of All New X-Men. I really love the Battle for the Atom stuff with the X-Men from the far future and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants from the future. And this stuff, since we've been getting a lot of backstory into their universe, or our future, however you want to put it. And it's very cool, but I much more like to see the team together, which is what we see in this, which appears to be, if not the culmination of the arc, certainly a peak in the storyline of the arc. So this is the kind of the final throwdown for this time between the X-Men from the future, Reyes, the son of Wolverine and Mystique.
Oh, the Brotherhood of Mutants from the future.
Right.
You said the X-Men from the future.
Well, but most of them are X-Men.
Right, but there was the separate team. You mentioned in the prologue here that...
yeah. All right, so the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants from the future.
Mutants.
And Kid Magneto, what do they keep calling, or Kid
Xavier.
Xavier. What do they keep calling? Baby Xavier.
Yes.
Which I love. And it's great. You know, each of the different people get a chance to shine. You get to see all the little cool character moments you want. And I just love the heck out of it.
And Angel drives a motorcycle.
And Angel drives a motorcycle.
I did. This answered a lot of questions that I had about why certain characters would be behaving a certain way. Kind of breaking character, and sheds a lot of light on that. Leaves the door open for future stories involving several of these characters. All New X-Men is it's a really strong book. I mean, it's in my opinion the best X book from beginning.
I would agree.
Out of the gate. I mean, right now, All New X-Men is the best X-Men book on the stands. But when you had that change from them hanging out with Wolverine and at the Jean Grey school, and Kitty being their mentor, to Kitty getting ticked off at Logan, and the kids ended up leaving, and now they're with Scott with his group. It's kind of interesting, you know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect a polar shift like that to happen in a book like this, and it did, and it still retained my interest. And these younger X-Men, it's interesting to see them, you know, at this stage of their superhero careers, at this stage of their lives, and thrust into, you know, crazy situations. It just really goes back to Bendis. I think Bendis has, you know, he's brought his A game to the X books after spending so many years on the Avengers and telling a lot of great stories on the Avengers books. You know, he kind of overstayed his welcome, in my opinion, on the Avengers books. So to see him get a chance to mess around with the X-Men and tell some great stories that are, you know, have me fired up about the X-Men again.
Very cool.
So we're going to pass on a top 5 list because we added a couple books to talk about. There were actually even more books that we could have talked about. There are a lot of great things that came out this week. And there are a lot of books that are, you know, constantly on my list of must-reads. I mean, Daredevil came out this week. American Vampire came out this week. Lots of good stuff. So
yeah, when I was assembling the list, my initial list was everything I told you was good last month. So if you're wondering, everything I said was good last month, it's still good this month. I
think you should assume that unless we specifically say so, anything we've previously talked about is still good.
Yeah.
That could be dangerous territory, though, because we only talk about the good stuff, because comics are awesome, and we want you to go out and visit your local comic book store, support them, support the comic book industry, support your favorite creators, support the troops, support everyone.
I'm Josh, and I approve this message.
We'll see you next time.